I'm just going to start recording. Okay, this is a software update on the 2016.2 software release that will be coming out in the next couple weeks. This build will be available. Anyone with a 2016.2 or 2016 license of SYNCHRO Pro will be able to upgrade to this with this version as part of your annual subscription. Just as an overview, I think everyone on the call is probably aware of this, but basically just want to reiterate the core value of Syncro here and the number of sort of interactions we have to deal with on both the scheduling and the 3D side. And essentially Syncro is this 4D aggregator of a huge number of 3D imports from basically anything out there into the market, into Syncro, and then linking up and interacting with other conventional scheduling platforms such as P6, ASTA, Microsoft Project, and of course you can schedule directly inside of Syncro. So this is sort of the space we're talking about. This is the Syncro software platform. And I want to talk just briefly about what is this Syncro platform and how it all works. With the 2016.2 release, we're really going to be pushing not just the use of SYNCHRO Pro as a core piece of technology for 4D planning, but the use of the Workgroup Server and the Link Server as a way of extending data way beyond the desktop. So the Workgroup Server is essentially a way to have real-time collaboration with Syncro data, and it is a database of all the Syncro data that then interacts with instances of Pro and Link and Site, which is our site application tool. So sort of at the core of this platform is the Workgroup database. It's all the information that you would input through Pro and now Site. Nice thing about that is it allows for one source of truth, one centralized place for all the 4D information to live, so that anyone who's interacting with that can always get the most up-to-date version, and that includes the Open Viewer. So with the workgroup setup, anyone with Open Viewer can essentially see what is the most up-to-date version of the Syncro file. And we really had to push this technology of Workgroup to get our tools like Site to work so that you can be in the field on an iPad sending information back and forth to Syncro through the Workgroup. So you'll start to see a lot more discussion from us at Syncro about this architecture and how it works with your sort of current installations of Pro. So just be aware that this is where we're really pushing the development right now of Syncro, is to build out the platform. If I want to get into some of the details of the actual features that we've added to this update release, 2016.2, and I'll move through these. The big one is the integration of the Nvidia IRA rendering engine. This is a it's a physically based ray trace engine developed by Nvidia. We've been working with them directly and their SDK to get their technology built directly into Syncro. And I just want to show you some of the examples of what this is looking like here. So this would be a typical Syncro view. And if you ray trace this, the quality just bumps up immediately, and you're going to get better shadow, lighting, material renderings, and quality. This is another shot just right out of a Syncro viewport. So everything that you've linked up, sequenced, the resource appearance profiles, the growth simulations are all going to render out into this IRA format directly within Syncro. So you can kind of see here just the quality of the shadows and the lighting is much nicer. equipment. You can get in here, and these are all just shots of some of our existing customer models, just to give you an idea of the quality that we're getting out of this. Okay, so those are just some of the examples of how that works. The actual implementation, just jumping out to Syncro here. When you come up to the 3D tab in the build that will be coming out, we've added just the IRA icon here. So this is in addition to these other standard display styles. If you just click this, in my case it's just going to start ray tracing. For new users, it'll pop up a dialog in which you can purchase a license for IRA. So IRA will be sold as an add-in on top of regular Syncro. And once you've licensed it, you'll have full access to it. A couple things with the with IRA too that we wanted to focus on. If you select an object in the 3D view, what you'll see are some options in the menu, 3D properties. The first one here, ray trace materials. We've included a basic list of sample materials that will come with this version. So if I were to turn this into plywood, for example, and assign it, you can apply materials in the 3D view, and then when you render it, you'll get that material. So it gives you a bit of flexibility within Syncro now to override some basic texture maps for the purpose of ray tracing. And then in addition to the materials, we have some basic controls for sun altitude, brightness, camera exposure, and if you want to export animation data or not. So if it's on, then you can basically do a single image shot. It's a quick way to render out just an image. If this is disabled and you ray trace a view, it's actually pretty cool technology. If I move through the timeline in the Gantt chart, it actually updates in real time with the IRA rendering engine. So if you think about how much data we're having to package up there, it's pretty amazing. It's basically all the transforms, all the colors, all the information required to ray trace this with IRA. And then we have real-time interaction here with sun altitude, so you can play with getting the lighting more to your requirements. And same thing with the sun brightness and exposure control. So if you're inside a building, you'll want to experiment with exposure. A couple more features I want to talk about. The resource usage window and task usage window have been updated, and I also want to talk about calculated user fields within Syncro. So we've had these task and resource usage field windows in the past, but what we've added now is time distributed data. So if I click an activity and look at my task usage, I can see the units required or assigned and tabulated in a chart over here, which is the time. So this whole piece here is new, the ability to see and add up units assigned per task distributed over time. The resource usage window has a similar functionality. If you click on resources, it will build this table up, show how many units are assigned, and then also show where those units are occurring and when they're being used in the timeline here. So you can see as I click on more resources, I get more information populating this table, and I can see when those resources are being assigned. Okay. The next subject is a big one. We think this is going to have a lot of impact if you're working with well-formed BIM data, and this is the ability to calculate user fields from other user fields and do automatic summation of values, for example. The example I want to show here would be if we make a task user field, volume per task. What we've added now is the ability for a parameter to use a formula. So we've added this option to calculate and an entire formula editor here. So the basic formula I'm looking for here is I want to sum resource user fields of the value volume and calculate that per task. Okay, so that's set up to work, and if you look at each resource here, these came in from a Revit export and imported in, so we know we have a volume for each 3D resource. So if we add this new calculated value to my list here, we can actually calculate the quantities here using the recalculate user field values command. So this is new. It will let you can be specific about what you want to calculate. In this case, I just have one parameter to calculate, so I'll do all. But if you just want to run calculations on selected user field values, you can select over here and then just run that. But I'll just run that calculation, and then basically what you're seeing here is this column volume per task is adding up all of the volume of, in this case, concrete components imported in per task. So we think this is a good way to start exploring how you can get calculated volumes to help you plan your durations by leveraging the data built into these BIM models. So very excited about that feature. Looking forward to see what people use that for. A couple more things. 3D filtering we've now improved so that you can add multiple filters to a 3D view and color code multiple criteria in a single view. Prior to this release, you could have multiple filters, but you could only use one filter to color the model. So now we have multicolored filtering. Resources, tasks, and 3D object views, we've improved the whole interaction with sorting and the use of columns and filters. I'll just give you a quick look at that. So essentially, the right-click menu and how we interoperate, or how we operate with the options here. We've refactored this. We've updated the custom filter dialog here to make it more Excel-like. And then for the resource table, we've added the ability to show this as a tree or a list. So if we go to a list mode, and then we went to filter for just objects in building A, for example, and then maybe only on level 1. Very fast and quick way to filter your 3D resources by user fields and parameters. So again, this is more in the vein of trying to get Syncro to be more like Excel-like in terms of its basic behavior. And we think this is a nice addition, quick way to sort and filter your resources so that you could then assign them to tasks. This is a big one. This is 3D object transforms of 3D objects and SPX imports will now, we have the option to preserve those transforms when you synchronize. So for anybody who's moved 3D objects around in the scene and then they synchronize and the objects jump back to their original position, this will now let you move things freely, and you'll know that when you synchronize, their positions and colors will be preserved. We added this export SDEF format. This is really for the US market. It's a way to export specific information out of the Syncro schedule for this report type. We have these. Documents have been improved now so that if you, prior to this, you could add any document to Syncro and it would load that document into the SP file. Now you can have this being a link to an external URL. So for example, if you've got known paths to documents relative to your project, these could be PDFs, it could be Revit models, it could be links to specs. You can link those to any task, resource, or 3D element. A camera can now be synchronized between multiple 3D views. It's a nice little feature. Let me just show this. Put the resources back. So if I bring up a new 3D window, so old behavior, if you want to get two views to kind of line up, you would manually sort of do this. But now with the camera option, we have this option to link our views. And once you link a view, it doesn't matter which one you move the cursor into, but they will both orbit, zoom, and pan at the exact same rate. So nice way to kind of set up multiple views in which you just need to move the camera once and they all update. We did add an events timeline to the animation window. You'll see a third line moving along the bottom of the screen. This will allow you to turn on and off 3D annotations sort of at certain keyframe points. This is still in sort of active development, and this considered like a beta release. So I'd be interested in seeing how people interact with this and providing feedback. 3D path alignment, this has been requested for a long time. You can now have the origin of the object on the path be based on the original location of the object, so you don't have to perform complicated offsets to get an object to line up with the path. We've made improvements to task filtering so that date range can be linked to start or finish of task, which is quite nice. Asta Power project users can now integrate tasks when synchronizing from. This basically allows Asta schedules to truly be used now when synchronizing. We've also done some work on the IFC import to improve geometry optimization. We were seeing some issues with large files having some performance problems, which we think we've largely fixed. We will also be coming out with Revit and Navisworks 2017 plugins with this release, and those will be made available when we go live with the release. We've also got just a large list of usability enhancements that we've added to the release. These are all sort of issues that come in from you guys out in the field, customers, and our SBD team as we're using Syncro. in real use. And this list will be made available with the final release notes that come out. But a couple nice ones: navigating through the 3D list tree, you can now use Shift and arrow key to move up and down trees. The insert key now can work with tasks. If you're in a task list and you just hit the insert key, you'll immediately be able to add a new task and start typing. Some improvements to borders with double clicking is quite nice. Three annotations can now have multi-line text. Filters and cutting planes will be preserved when the viewport is made when creating a markup before these would disappear. If you're hiding elements in a view, now when you add new elements to be hidden, it won't bring back previously hidden elements, but it's more of an additive filter system. In the animation editor, you can now select multiple keyframes, so you can select many keyframes at once and slide all that information along as a group, so it makes it a lot easier to keep things synchronized when in the animation editor. We've added a bunch of baseline and variance parameters to task properties, and part of this is also a refactoring of the task properties palette, and I'll just give you a quick look at that just so you guys are aware. In task properties, we've been migrating the properties types to just parameter and value pairs into a much tighter structure like this, instead of custom drop-down lists and radio buttons and checkboxes. So look for this change in how the task properties have been arranged and organized. Task filters can now be created using an and/or function, so you can make more complex filtering on a task. And we've also given more font control over the Gantt chart, so you can actually use any of the fonts loaded onto your computer now, instead of previously it was just, I believe, Arial and Times New Roman. Now you'll have full access to all your system fonts. User fields and 3D filters can now be sorted alphabetically instead of randomly in the order in which you created them. Yeah, we've added some more keyboard shortcuts. Selected task IDs can now be auto-numbered and incremented. And we've made some improvements to the AVI export dialog. Resource and 3D lists can be included in the AVI as data. You can also hide the object numbers that show up in the task resource list. This is that number that goes down the far left side of the task list. Focus time can now be centered on the timeline when exporting the AVI, so that the timeline slides left to right as the focus time stays centered. We can now show active resources and active filter resources as text fields. PNG images can now be imported and maintain their transparency for the AVI. It's kind of a big one. I think the best one, the most interesting one that I think people will appreciate, is this apply button that will save the current state of your AVI export dialog if you need to go back to Syncro and make some adjustments and then come back to the AVI export. You don't have to render a frame out in order to save your layout. We had some issues with 3D lists would sometimes be displayed black on exporting, and that's now been fixed. And 3D views can export with IRA, so we will have full support for animation data out of the AVI exporter to IRA. We've also made some improvements to resource statusing. This is the feature that we've developed really for the site application to track 3D resource statusing in the field. So you'll notice with the new release that anytime you make new resources, you have the option to assign it to a resource status, and they will inherit a default status from the get-go. We improved the legend for resource statusing, and now we can control transparency and visibility of resource statuses as they change state. And we also added the ability to filter both task and 3D views by resource status. And also, if the model has been colored by resource status, this data can now be exported to FBX if you need to get that animation information into a tool like 3D Studio Max or Maya. So those are the main Pro improvements. We've also done a lot of work on Synchro Workgroup Server. This is the Workgroup Server technology that allows for multi-user collaboration in real time. Spent a lot of effort making sure that a connection to the workgroup will always be maintained. So if you have an intermittent connection, instead of it dropping you out and then having to reconnect manually, Syncro will attempt to reconnect and warn you if a connection's lost and reestablish that connection with the workgroup. And also, if the service on the server of the workgroup stops for any reason, it will automatically try and restart to get things going. So this should remove a lot of need to reconnect or get IT involved to restart services on the back end. We also worked on getting Workgroup to interoperate and work with Link and Site. Site is our iPad app for capturing data in the field, and Link is how information transfers back and forth between the Workgroup and Site. So now work captured in Site will move through Link and post into Workgroup, including photos, notes, and any status changes coming from the field. And we just spent a lot of time testing and fixing a lot of bugs in this system, so we believe it's much more reliable and robust. And we also added a database administration tool that makes it much easier to deploy a workgroup project from a Syncro project, and also stop and restart the database. As far as Syncro Link, the big improvement here is the ability to work with the Workgroup Server and successfully transmit data from the iPad back and forth. So this is working. We also updated the Link console with some minor UI improvements, and we've also added much more get and set parameters that Link can interact with in Syncro. And we can also create tasks via Link. So that's sort of what you can look forward to with the 2016.2 release. Other things that we're getting into and what's on the horizon, just so you're aware, and if you guys want to get involved, feel free to email me at any time. But we're starting to work with augmented and virtual reality systems as the next sort of place to go with 4D visualization and animation. So the work we did on for the iPad app and Site and Link, which will be coming out with this release, we see this same kind of trend moving into other alternative devices, such as the Microsoft HoloLens. So stay tuned for that. And I think we're just about to our time here. And I think with that, leave it to any questions the audience might have. And otherwise, stay tuned and watch for announcements for when the release is officially made available. You can think of this as a preview of what's coming out in the next couple weeks. And if there's I'm not getting any questions. If there's no questions, I'll wrap it up and let everybody get back to their day. So thank you for logging in, and stay tuned, and have a good afternoon. Bye.